The five-time Grey Cup champion joins us on the program on a Football Friday. Hey, Jim, are you at home today? Have you switched rooms, or are you on the road? I feel like you're on the road.
I'm on the road. I'm in Montreal for the Eastern Final. First year, last year I got to go to the Western Final and enjoy that. But no, I'm here in Montreal getting ready for tomorrow's classic, as there'll be a classic in Winnipeg also. So
no doubt.
When Saskatchewan and Winnipeg play, I remember that last playoff game they had there in the snow, and I mean it was the goalpost game when Cody hit the goalpost with the last throw. So I mean that was a classic. It was just one of that they still talk about. So no, it's going to be a great weekend of football. Both games, like you said, have phenomenal storylines. Picking winners is not as easy, but again, I think that both games have things you can take and evaluate and say, yeah, this is why I would take this team.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because last week you seemed pretty confident in your picks that Toronto and Sask were going to win the semifinals, and I wonder how confident you are in these games this weekend. What are the matchups in your mind?
Well, again, it's like I said last week, physicality is what it comes down to. And Saskatchewan beat the hell out of the BC Lions. I think they're in meetings now and things trying to figure out how do we get that in our organization, because Saskatchewan physically took it to them from lining up with both Armstead and Ouellette in the same backfield at times. Just the whole mentality of that. It just sets a tone. And their defense, the Saskatchewan defense, again, to me, is one of the hardest hitting secondaries. They come up and knock you silly. When you do that's a good thing. I mean, Winnipeg is a physical team and has gotten there because of their ability to get leads on making big plays. They make big plays with Lawler, and in the past they've had Schoen. I think they have Lawler and then Dembski to a point, but they get a lead and then they pound Oliveira at you. And when he has a lead and he gets going, that is difficult for any defense in the CFL to stop. So I think the key for Saskatchewan, Trevor and Zach are totally different kinds of quarterbacks. I had them both. In fact, we used to, in those days, we had a second and a third, and they were second and third, and we never even declared who was second and third, because Scott always felt like if we were behind in the game, we were going to go to Zach, and if we were ahead in the game, we were going to go to Trevor. And the thought process being that, Trevor's going to take care of the football. He's not going to make crazy throws at times, but Zach is going to make big plays. That's just what Zach does. So I think the key to that game, to the West Final, is the ability of the Riders to stop the big plays, force Winnipeg early to drive the ball down the field consistently. And I don't think Zach has had his best year. So that's the first thing, is don't give up big. If they give up big plays, it could be a tough go for Saskatchewan. I don't see a blowout either way, but I just think it's going to be tougher for them coming from behind if they give up some big. That game's so intriguing. And again, if Saskatchewan gets ahead, now they're going to see a dose of Armstead and Ouellette that we just saw tastes of it, glimmers of it. But that is a tough combination. And, Winnipeg is their linebackers are not, they don't have Big Hill. I'll put it that way. They don't have Big Hill there anymore. So they lose that dominating piece inside that for years has been the thing that stops those Ouellette, although there aren't many Ouellette combinations in the league. So again, I like the Riders' chances a lot tomorrow. I think that Trevor is doing a great job protecting the football. Again, will they make enough big plays to stay on the field? They've got to stay on the field. They can't allow Winnipeg down. Now,
You
you want
know,
to go to the East?
in 1 second I do. But, we
Okay.
sit and talk about all quarterbacks all the time, and I hear it here in America all the time, too, and for good reason. But we all know defense wins games. I just called up the Bombers, the league stats. Winnipeg's the only team in the league that allowed sub 400 points this year, and it wasn't even close. 366 points against Saskatchewan, next 434. That's just points. Ground yards, passing yards, whatever, they're tops. Will this not come down to defense? And why the hell are we talking about quarterback?
Well, quarterbacks lose you games as well as win you games. Now, both of these quarterbacks have won in the playoffs. Trevor, I don't believe he's taken a team to win a Grey Cup, where Zach has won 2 Grey Cups. So again, and that is kind of the litmus test. It's off game first, which in the East, Chad Kelly did last week in unbelievable fashion, but it's winning Grey Cups now for him. He's got to show he can get past this final and into the Grey Cup. Cody has shown in that game last year when he threw that ball to Tyson Philpott, what he said was, "This is my statement. I am a top quarterback in this league because I took this team on my shoulders on this last drive, and with 7 seconds left, I drilled the bullet and we won the game." And nobody can ever take that away from him. And to me, there's a lot to be said. So again, will defense determine the Saskatchewan game? I do think it's going to be a big factor because I think both teams have great defenses. The problem comes in that which one has a better defense for the team they're playing. And I think the Winnipeg defense struggles against what Saskatchewan has the ability to do. Now, will they do it? Will they continue to pound the ball and be patient, not turn the ball over? If they do that, I think Winnipeg's going to be in tough.
Yeah, as I look at this, they're the top 2 defenses in the league. Nobody's going to argue that. But the Bombers shut down the aerial attack, not the ground attack, and that's what Sask is bringing. Oh, it's going to be a great game. Now,
yeah,
Toronto at Montreal. It is the Chad Kelly revenge game. No, you can't say it's not. That's what it is. I don't know if it'll come down to that or not, but what do you think for that game, Toronto at Montreal?
Well, I mean, obviously the media is going to make that out to be a Chad Kelly revenge game. Chad Kelly needed to show he could win in the playoffs. And that game he played last week was amongst the greatest games I've seen in a long time for a quarterback. He had a perfect efficiency rating, which is not easy to get. I think it was 20 of 22 for 289 yards and 4 touchdowns and no intercept. And he was brilliant. He scrambled when he had to scramble. He did the things that a Grey Cup quarterback needs to be able to do. With that being said, we talked about Cody. He did it last year. Here's the difference, I think, in these two teams right now. Last year, Montreal came into that game on a 7 or 8 game winning streak when they came in to play that final. They were playing by far the best football. No, they didn't think they could lose. When they picked up Sean Lemon and Darnell Sankey midseason, they didn't think they could lose, and they didn't. They went all the way through, and they won the whole thing. This year, they're coming in, their last 8 games are 2-5-1. Okay, so now you can say, yeah, they clinched it, which they did. And that's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to get yourself ready for. They're doing this year what Toronto went through last year, which was Toronto kept winning games, but they didn't play meaningful games. And it is so hard to turn that, I'm going to call it the meaningful button. And when you have Dubuck on, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a button that coaches push and that players push when their game is on the line. You're playing in a big game. The whole game is important. But there's going to come down to about 7, 8 plays that you better push that button and play your very best. And I think that when you look at the Montreal team this year they come in minus Sean Lemon, minus Mustafa Johnson, maybe the best interior defensive lineman, and 2-5-1 in their last 8 games. Now, again, they didn't need to win them. They deserve the right to be hosting this game. But now you've got Toronto in their last two games. Now their defense has played badly in the fourth quarters. I mean, they were up by 25 or 30 on Ottawa, and Ottawa came back and they got two onside kicks, and they made it a lot closer than it should have ever been. And I think kind of in the playoff game, I mean, they had a big lead in Ottawa, came back. The big thing here in this game is Toronto's defense gives up more big plays than any in the league, and Montreal's offense gets more big plays than anybody in the league. So when you put those two together, will Montreal get big plays on Toronto? And if they do, because I don't think they can control the ball. I mean, they're going to throw a ton of screen passes. I think Toronto's secondary, whilst is killer in terms of tackling and physicality, I think Toronto's is lacking in that area. So they're going to have to play above what they've played to stop all these little screen passes and things like that Jason Moss is going to throw at them. They don't have Walter Fletcher's their running back. They're not going to pound the ball, but their running game is on the perimeter where they get the ball out in the flats and they block up the DBs and make the DBs get off of blocks and make tackles. And if Toronto can't do that, it's going to be a long day for them. I think Toronto has the ability to control the football. So if they get some big plays like they've gotten lately, I mean, I think Chad Kelly threw 3 or 4 30-plus yard plays, 4 scores. If they can do that, they can then control the football because I believe they can run the ball with Mustafa Johnson out. And, Kadeem Carey has proven how good he is, and then Deontay McMahon, and they throw that whole running game package. It's difficult. So where I think Montreal's going to have a hard time killing the clock, should Toronto get the big plays and not Montreal, I think it's going to be tough for Montreal because it's going to be tough for them to get the ball back.
Okay, so thank you for that. I guess that's a lot. That is a lot. I got to ask you this. I'm going to see you at Grey Cup next week. I'm going to see you at the Legends Lunch, which you're hosting with Milt. If you were the owner of the BC Lions, what would you do?
Honestly, I would say I would take my people in and say, what do you think our problem is? Why is it we lose in the playoffs? And you got every player you wanted. What is the issue? And you can't ever affect change in an organization. And I've been in a lot of bad ones that we had to affect change. When I went to Calgary, it was right after the box maker had the team for his kid to play. Then when I went to Toronto, they were coming off of 2-3 win seasons, we actually had a quarterback the day I got hired. We had 0 quarterbacks. So I've been in some bad situations. But the first thing you have to do to affect change is you have to identify your problem and say, we're going to go out and attack this. Now, to a point, they tried to do that last year when they went out and got William Stanback. And they said, we are going to become more physical. The problem is on defense, they didn't play with a physical mentality. They played a lot of soft zones and, people would, catch the ball and move the ball on them. And I just think that they need to figure out how can we become physical? Because Rod, and we talked about it last week and it proved out, physical teams win this time of year. How's Cardinal Gibbons doing, speaking of that? How's Cardinal Gibbons?
Oh, they're just getting... they're kicked the crap out of everybody. They're just getting ready for the playoffs now. Playing meaningless games at the end of the year. Yeah.
But the bottom line is the one thing I know, Matt Dubuck, he's a Texas Tech guy. I know what he does. He preaches physicality, and they beat the hell out of teams. This time of the season, when you can do that, you're going to win. And if you can't do that, you're not going to win. And that bothers me a bit about Montreal because Montreal's game is on the perimeter, block up the DBs, force them to have to tackle. Now, they're in a good matchup because I think Toronto's weak there. But they're not that physical, beat you up type of team. They're just not that without Stanback this year. Last year they had Stanback. This year they don't. And they haven't been that team. So again, I think it comes down to that. So if I'm the BC Lions, I say have them identify the problem. If they don't identify it as we need to be more fit, we need to physically match up better. If they don't say that, then, good luck to them. But because that's their problem.
Yeah, this has been a big, big, big fail. Well, you're going to knock it out of the park at the Legends Luncheon because it's a 4-hour program. They allot a lot of time for that hot stove. And I'll be in the crowd, Jim. I can't wait. Okay, thanks for the time.
Is that on Friday? Is that on Friday?
Yeah. It's
so
on the Friday.
Are you still on the air on Friday? So we still have
we'll figure it out.
Go at 9?
I'm just worried about today, but we do.
See, that's you.
Maybe I'd love to get you.
I've been worried all week. How am I going to do this next week? I got this, man.
I got a bracelet that says one day at a time. We're doing the show from the convention center, Pan Continental Convention Center. We'll set it up next week. Let's just enjoy this weekend.
Perfect.
Thanks, Coach.
Sounds good.